Is this thing on, Kelly? Kelly?
Hello?
Are we
Hello?
recording into microphones?
I don't know. Is it 2019? Did we make it?
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to your favorite podcast about fake news. I can't believe it's not news. I'm Beth.
And I'm Kelly.
Hey, Kelly, remember back in 2018 when we said we were going to take a month off and we lied?
I do remember that.
We actually meant we were going to take 3 months off.
Give or take. I enjoyed my Sundays sleeping in. Did you, Beth?
Yes, I did.
Good.
And Kelly and I took a very well-deserved mental and probably physical break as well from podcasting for a couple months. But we are back, and we're going to get deep.
Yay! Let's get deep.
Yeah. Because, Kelly, we don't do anything light around here, do we?
No. So let's do some deep thinking about some fake news. Do you know what they sometimes call that?
What's that?
They sometimes call that deep fakes.
You know, deep fakes are actually a really big problem. So let's first talk about what those are. So
let's get into it.
Yeah, have you heard about this? These videos that they're making now where they superimpose like people's faces, and of course it like kicked off really hardcore with porn, like right away. Like that was the very first use. Somebody was like, I can put somebody else's face on an existing video, and they were like, let's do porn with celebrities. Like that was the first thing. So
of course it was.
Yeah. So what are they, Kelly? What's the technical stuff here?
So deepfake is a portmanteau of the terms deep learning and fake. Thank you, Wikipedia.
Yes.
It's so what it really is. It's a machine learning, if you will. It's a artificial intelligence, and it's a technique where artificial intelligence, a human image, is superimposed over something else. So it combines existing images and videos onto images or videos using a technique called generative adversarial network, or GAN, G-A-N. And what happens is people basically are making videos. They can find one person that they want to make a video of. And if you have enough pictures of them, which sometimes can be as few as one, unfortunately, if you have enough pictures of them, they can create a video, or you can superimpose a person's face over a video and create that video to do anything you want that person to do, or say anything you want that person to say.
That doesn't sound bad, right? That's fine. We don't. Is this something that we need to talk about?
I mean,
can this be a fake news?
So, Beth, I just want to ask, do you have any maybe malicious exes that might have any reason to create maybe a fake pornography video of you to try to destroy your life? Because I can't imagine any woman that doesn't have that.
I know, right? And actually this week doing this research, I've been kind of thinking about that.
Yeah.
I really
it's
hope
terrible.
that doesn't ever, I mean, okay. Yeah, that is, of course, the first thing it goes to is porn. I mean, honestly,
of course.
Like that is the first thing that it's going to go to. But let's talk about how this became an issue, because there is this really good Guardian article, and I really love the title. It's, "You thought fake news was bad? Deep fakes are where the truth goes to die." And then I think after it, you just hear like a bah.
Yes, you hear the traditional, very sinister from the pit of Reddit laugh.
Yes. And this article is back from November 12th, 2018, right around when we last recorded our last episode. So
Maybe a
we're
little
right
bit
up to date.
Yeah.
Oscar Schwartz did this research. So do you remember in May there was, and this would be 2018, there was that video of Donald Trump offering advice to the people of Belgium on the issue of climate change?
I remember a really bad video.
He was like,
Yeah.
as you know, I had the balls to withdraw from the Paris Climate Agreement. And then he looks directly to the camera and he says, and so should you.
Right.
And that was a deepfake video that was created like on purpose. And it was by the Belgian political party. I'm not going to try to say that. It's like the SPA. And like people really believed it, and they were like, oh, I can't believe you believe that. We were just like, we didn't think people would not catch on that wasn't real. They wanted to use,
because it's bad.
Yeah, they wanted to.
It's real bad.
That fake video to grab people's attention and then redirect them to an online petition calling on the Belgian government to take more urgent climate action. And they assumed that the poor quality of the fake would be enough to alert their followers that, hey, it's not true. But yeah, no.
But not everyone works like that. Yeah.
No.
And I will say, we'll put a link to the video up on the blog, but just to give you a little visual, it looks like one of those videos where someone just cuts out the mouth and puts in their mouth and they're speaking the words. Like it's almost entirely, there's no way you can watch it and think it's real unless you are an incredibly gullible person.
Well, to be fair, when I hear Donald Trump talking, I avert my eyes. So it could be that,
I suppose that was
that people just don't watch them actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then this new technology came out, and there's this Reddit user who went by the moniker Deepfake, and he began building these GANs using TensorFlow, which is Google's free open source machine learning software, to superimpose celebrities' faces on the bodies of women in pornographic movies. Yay.
Isn't that great?
Yeah. Reddit did ban him. But by this stage, the creator of the videos had released Fake App, an easy-to-use platform for making forged media.
Right.
And that free software basically let everybody have use of it. So anyone with access to the internet and pictures of a person's face could generate their own deep fake. Yay.
It's really crazy because, I mean, it's very much a situation where are celebrities not people? Are they not allowed to have a little bit of privacy? It gets to a point where you think, is this sort of sexual abuse? Because you are creating their image. I get that people might think that that's taking it to extreme, but what happens when it's a child?
No, I think you're absolutely right. And I think the word abuse is the right word for this, because as this progressive, it's not even just about sexually explicit content. It's about putting people into videos in, situations that they weren't actually in. And it's about abusing their identity, abusing them in ways that this is like a new kind of abuse. You actually, that's, I think, very on point of a good way to describe this. So I do want to talk really quick about this study that was done that the Guardian article references. And it is called Deepfakes, a Looming Challenge for Privacy, Democracy, and National Security by Bobby Chesney and Danielle Citron. So this was a really good paper, and actually it wasn't too bad of a read if you are looking for a good 60-page paper about deepfake technology to whittle away your Saturday.
Right.
I suggest this one. It's quite nice. So it talked about, I'm going to go through some of the benefits and then some of the harmful effects that they saw.
Okay.
or that they've kind of thought about. So there are some cool things about deepfake technology that could be really beneficial. And some of these I was like, oh, that's actually kind of cool. So one of them, they were talking about education. Like you could have a video made of a historical figure giving a lecture about the thing that they did. Instead of having a professor just stand up there and lecture you, you could be watching literally a video of Rosa Parks getting on the bus, talking about what she was doing, walking through what she was going through and all those things. And I was like, oh, that's kind of actually really cool.
Right.
Like, I wouldn't have minded that in school. The second one they talk about is art. And let me scroll down to here.
Right. Just while you're talking about that, one of the things that I watched was a TED Talk about sort of the same thing, talking about what it can do in education. And that one had talked about using Holocaust survivors, the last living Holocaust survivors, to talk about it and use that AI technology for like a hologram, almost as if you're talking to them, or you could set it up to where that is an almost one-on-one personal conversation, as opposed to, because they've fed in all the information, they've answered all the questions you can technically ask. You would have like a list of questions that you could ask them, and it's almost like a conversational, and that's how you learn. And I thought that's really an interesting way of doing it. My concern even there is you're going to be limited by the amount of people, and I can very easily see that becoming a very white centric history, much like what we have now, with a few outliers of color, but you're not getting real equity in history there. You'd have to really have people passionate about doing it, because history and technology, they're not usually parallel to one another. They're usually like, oh, well, I really want to hear about this one topic, and then you're not covering others. So, if that's the way that you go in terms of education, it can be I feel like it can be hindered by what you're able to get access to.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with this technology is it's got some potentially really good uses, and then it falls into a deep, dark hole.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
So one of the other benefits they talked about, and this is kind of cool, is they were talking about art, and they actually referenced the reappearance of the long dead Peter Cushing in 2016's Rogue One, the Star Wars movie, that they used some of this technology to like resurrect his character for that movie. And then they also used it when Carrie Fisher tragically died and they weren't done filming. So they used it to help kind of fill in her storyline as well. So there is some possibilities for some, cool advances basically in the movies. And the only thing I was thinking of is I hope it doesn't get to the point where literally like an actor just provides their face and they just make the video without having actual acting. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And I don't, it's almost like maybe that's the next step from like animation, like going from how Walt Disney cartoons started out to now we have Pixar.
Right.
That's like the next generation of that. So I almost wonder if this will be like the next step in that as well. But there's some possibilities there. And then the next one is autonomy. And this I thought was really interesting. And you might find this interesting as well, Kelly. So basically, I was talking about using that technology to basically be able for people to create avatar experiences. And this can be very helpful, especially for people who are disabled, who may not have, the ability. And they even talked about basically, this is kind of funny, but like, even for people who are physically disabled, that they could make a video of themselves and their consenting partner having sex or having a sexual encounter of something that they can't physically make happen, but like they could make the video of it for themselves.
I mean, I think that's really reaching. I don't feel like I encounter a lot of people who experience all different kinds of disabilities in my line of work. And I have to say, I'm not sure that any of them would be interested in making a video where they're not experiencing the pleasure that's in that video. I mean, it is pretty difficult to have such a disability that you can't experience pleasure sexually.
Right.
There might be things that you can't do, but what you can do, I'm sure, is, I mean, we talk about sexual health, but there's never a time where they're like, oh,
I wish I had a video of myself in an able body having sex.
yeah, that just seems condescending. It seems kind of weird. It seems like someone didn't really think about what they were saying when they did that.
Say that as a striking example was an article suggesting that.
Yeah.
But they also kind of brought it back down to like, you know, basically it's almost like the next step up from the Nintendo Mii's, like having an avatar of yourself to put into videos. And I can kind of see that with just how, with basically they've got basic avatars in videos now,
right?
Video games, you know, right. Kids are playing games or adults are playing games and they have a character that at least somewhat resembles them. And this would be like more you in that video. So anyway, so that's the very short list of the good side effects that they were able to come up with.
Yeah.
Now on to the harmful ones. There's a lot.
Yeah, there are. I would easily say I would say very easily outnumbers any benefits we're getting from this.
So I'll just go through a quick rundown of the list. So it is, we'll start with exploitation, sabotage, and that's their sub list of the harm to individuals or organizations. And then you have harm to society. So distortion of democratic discourse, manipulation of elections, eroding trust in institutions, exasperating social divisions, undermining public safety, undermining diplomacy, jeopardizing national security, undermining journalism. And then they have beware of the cry of the deepfake news. And what this is talking about is when it could get to a point where, let's say, you have a presidential candidate who is caught on video saying that he likes to grab pussy. And he could then turn around and say, oh, that wasn't me. That was a deepfake video.
Right. Deepfake news.
Right. So it gets to the point where we have to go back to the days of like, I don't know why I keep thinking of this, maybe because I just heard a podcast about one of the stories from Lincoln's attempted assassination in Baltimore. Mm-hmm. But I was thinking about like back in those days when you really only knew it was true for sure if you saw it with your own eyes.
Right.
And in those days, it was because they didn't have video, they didn't have internet, they didn't have everything to spread the news as quickly. They did have some modes, and fake news was rampant back then as well. I'm not saying it wasn't, but It's almost like we're coming full circle where even with the technology to see and hear every single thing, even at the moments that they happen, we're going to get to a point where we don't believe it unless we're seeing it with our own eyes. And that means in person, which means we're literally going to be like the flat earthers, Kelly.
Yeah. It is really bad. I know that I was trying to come up with my own separate list, and there's a lot of mirroring in this, but I think mine got more in the weeds. And I think that they have left out some stuff that I'm surprised that they didn't think of. And I think that it would just fall under exploitation, but I don't think that they're looking at it like that, because what I can think of is something as, you know, we've talked before about these very deeply concentrated ads where they're basically marketing straight to you because they know all your preferences. Right. Can you imagine an ad where you see like your best friend drinking a Diet Coke, or, you know, your best friend on Facebook, the person you interact with the most on Facebook, drinking a Coke and being like, you know, don't you want a Coke too? Or even a picture of yourself.
Or you and your partner on vacation in Mexico.
Right, exactly. You know, with come to Mexico, that's their tourism. And I feel like It's definitely something that can be used in advertising. It's definitely something I could see could be 100% the downfall of online dating. I mean, I can't even imagine, because that's like Photoshop times 1,000. You could be in a long distance relationship with someone online dating.
Yeah.
And they don't look anything like what you thought that they look like. Not that looks are the most important thing, but
right. But there's a whole show called catfishing. So
yeah, exactly.
yes.
It is a thing, and we know that, and this could make it so much worse. Then there's
oh, sorry, I
go
was
ahead.
just thinking of one when I was reading the paper. They have a section on what we can do, which we'll get into a little bit later. But one of the things that they were talking about was that there might be a new system where you pay for an alibi to prove that you weren't in these deep fake videos. But it made me go, murder alibis. So, like you commit a murder and they make a deep fake video to like have an alibi that they were, somewhere that they weren't.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the possibilities are literally endless, and they are endless for good things as well. I mean, if you really think about it, like I grew up watching Star Trek, right? And everybody would go to the holodeck, for their vacation time, right? And I feel like this is the start of getting to that part of reality where we're going to have holograms and interactions and things like that aren't necessarily reality as it is today. And I don't know that is, I can't say right now, like if that's good or bad. It'll be good in some ways and bad in others, right? But I keep thinking about this like one scene that I remember from one of the episodes, I think from Next Generation, where one of the characters was like basically in love with the hologram and was kind of getting a little bit like obsessed with his fake life versus his real life. It just seems like this technology is the start down, getting us closer to that road where we are going to be able to have those interactions. And some of them are going to be really good tools. I mean, whether our refrigerator, tells us how to make dinner.
Right.
We have Martha Stewart reading the recipe to us, from our refrigerator panel. I copyright that idea, FYI. But then also, are there going to be some really gross people who have sex dolls with Martha Stewart's face on it? I mean, the possibilities are endless for both good and bad.
I will do a brief sidebar to tell you that during my research for this, one of the things I did see is that apparently you can turn a sex doll into a killer robot doll by hacking it really easily.
Oh.
So there is a part of me that's like, maybe that problem will take care of itself.
Is that under your vengeful porn header?
It's not, but it was just one of those things that I was like, I can't click on that right now because that'll take me down a deep dark hole, which is exactly what deepfakes is. That's one of the problems with this is that, it's everything online is the algorithms push you to be going down these holes, these deep black holes, because they make more money the longer you spend online. So we live in this age of the bubble, and that's one of the dangers of deepfakes is that we shut everything else out so much that we tend to believe more than we should. And we live in an age where we also go way too fast. So we read headlines, we don't read articles. We watch the first couple of minutes of a video, or we read the headline of a video, and we believe that that's what's on it. And realistically, when these deep fakes start coming out and they're more and more prevalent because they've created these apps to make them more accessible to people without these computer science degrees.
Right.
What we're ending up with is a society where we don't know who to trust and where to trust. And we can't believe anything anymore. And we become more and more cynical. And where does that put us as a society if we can't trust anything anyone else says unless there's like multiple witnesses?
The answer is flat earthers. That's where it puts us.
I hope not.
And if you don't know what I'm talking about when I say that, we did an episode where we talked about this, that basically the flat earthers will only believe what they can see with their own eyes.
Yeah.
And so they won't trust any sort of research that's been done. They don't trust pictures. They would have to go into space themselves to see the round curve of the Earth before they would believe it.
Yeah. Which, again, I always go back to, you can clearly see the moon is round. You can clearly see the sun is round. You can see other fucking planets in the solar system at different times. You can see them with your naked fucking eye. But somehow our planet ended up being flat,
Right.
while all those other ones are perfectly spherical.
That's what you can see with your eyes. Yes.
Sure.
Okay, so Kelly, speaking of going too fast,
Yes.
what can we do to stop? Like, what measures can they take to help stop deepfake videos?
So I'm glad you asked. That was part of the TED Talk I was reading earlier. And I wish it had better news, but I'll at least walk you through a little bit of what he was talking about.
Okay.
The TED Talk is called Fake Videos of Real People and How to Spot Them. It's by, I'm going to mispronounce this, but I'm going to do my best. It's Supasorn.
Okay.
Sawa Janakorn.
Okay.
That sounds right. I'm really sorry if I pronounced your name wrong.
That is
He's a computer scientist. If it makes you feel better, you can totally mispronounce my name as well. I do not mind. So he's a computer scientist, and his team has largely pioneered this effort to create the realistic human modeling. And like I said earlier, they use it a lot. Their thinking was to use it a lot for historical and personal uses, like speaking with a relative who has passed on, or preserving a Holocaust survivor stories in a more personal way. His team includes people who do work actively to figure out how to spot these fake videos, because they know that this is an issue and it exists and it will be misused. So to do this, they created a browser plugin called Reality Defender.
Okay.
Which is a great idea. However, I went to download it today after reading this, and it's not out yet.
Oh, okay.
This video came out in the beginning of 2018, and, he's part of the team that's leading the charge on this realistic human modeling. Mm-hmm. However, apparently the side of his team that's making a browser plugin is not working fast enough, which is really fucking disappointing, sir.
Right.
Because it seems like that's more important than even the other side. But I digress. I'll walk it back a little bit. One of my issues with a browser plugin is that videos can create a lot of damage before it's found to be fake. And some people are still going to harbor doubt about its authenticity, even after they find out it might be fake. And so also, there are many areas around the world that are largely browserless. We discussed in the episode where we talked about fake news overseas in Malaysia and how they tried to ban fake news. And they largely use things like WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger, or they use Facebook as a source of their news.
Right.
Which I think recent studies say that or recent polls are something like 57% of people get their news from social media, which is crazy. Don't get your news from social media. That's just crazy. Don't do that. So
I want to go back to the Guardian article real quick. Because they also talked about this as well. So there are efforts to produce new detection methods, basically, to help combat it. And one of the ones that they had noticed was that there would be a lack of blinking by the synthetic subjects. But basically, every time they come up with something that they're like, oh, hey, in deepfake videos, this happens, the deepfake people are like, oh, thanks for letting us know. Done, fixed, right?
Right.
He said all the programmer has to do is update the algorithm to look for, say, changes of color in the face that correspond with the heartbeat. And then suddenly the fakes incorporate this once imperceptible sign. And this person that they were talking to, his last name is Farad, he chose not to share some of his most recent forensic breakthroughs with the article because he said, once I spill on the research, all it takes is one asshole to add it to their system.
Right. And I actually know who that person is because he works, he's a professor who works a little bit for DARPA as well, which I'll get into.
That's Hani Farad. And he basically is like in this technical cat and mouse game with deep creators. And it sounds like to me, like the deepfake creators are like on level 10 of the game, and the people trying to detect deepfake videos are like maybe at level 1.
Right. And that's something he talks about in the podcast I was listening to, because that's who was talking about this, was he mentioned that they're at a disadvantage because it's basically 100,000 to 1.
Right.
There's, for every one person who's working on this, there's some yokel in Alabama who's pissed off at his ex-wife that she won't put out anymore, and he's downloaded a free app on the App Store and he's creating revenge porn of her while, and every time, that's the thing about machine learning, is that every time you do it, it gets a little bit better.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be, oh, this person is getting better at making them. It just has to be the app, the way that the machine learning works, the way that AI works, is that it constantly is looking for new ways to improve itself, and it's learning from the mistakes that it's made. You don't have to have human interaction with that. It's just doing it on its own.
Right.
So I did download a different browser today to see if that worked, because it was mentioned in another article that mentioned Reality Defender, which I'm signed up to get once it comes out. But again, it should already be out. So I downloaded one today, and it's a free extension. It's called SurfSave. I will tell you that I spent about an hour playing with it, going through Facebook, I think I went to National Review, I went to Snopes, I went to just a Google search for like most Photoshop pictures.
Right.
And it works okay, but it requires a lot of interaction in order to make it work. It's not just like you get an alert that's like, this is definitely faked.
Right.
And it seems very user based. Like you have to say, investigate this picture before, or you can click on fact check and then nothing is there for it because it's a brand new image. They haven't done any sort of research on it. So it's not as easy for that.
I'm sure they only get like 10, 20 new images a day.
Right. I'm sure. But that's the thing. That's what I'm saying. It's like, they were talking, right. And there's 500 hours of content uploaded to YouTube per minute.
Right.
So there's just no logical way to get through all of that right now. So they have to have these algorithms to filter out some stuff. Right. But to go back to DARPA, what I will say is that, and this is somewhat good news, at least, is that DARPA does have US government backing. So one of the things they are doing to prevent the rise of the machine, if you will, they have an AI colloquium, which is now a regular event. It's going to be held again this March. And what it does is it's looking into AI. So it's looking for the positives, but it's also looking for ways to combat this new wave of counterfeit videos, because certainly the US government knows that there are still some smart people who work for the government, even if we're not run by the smartest of people.
Right.
And, they are trying to get on top of this because they know that this could create a very bad political situation because, all it takes is a fake video of maybe Kim Jong-un coming out and saying, I've launched a nuclear attack. Yeah. And suddenly you're at nuclear war and we don't know if it's fucking fake.
Right. And it's some 18-year-old from,
right,
whatever, Calabasas that was like, I thought it was funny.
Right. Right. Exactly.
It's killed 18 million people. That was
right. And it's just, it could be the next wave of fucking school shooters or the next wave of swatting or, whatever it is. There's always some pissed off little white kid somewhere that'll fucking fuck things up for everybody. Right. Sorry. But yeah, it's my biggest concern though with DARPA is that they are so concentrated on that top tier level of counterfeits
Mm-hmm.
that they are missing, or I believe that probably what is going to affect regular people the most is the pure tomfoolery of the bottom feeders of society who have malicious intent, who are going to use this to their benefit for revenge purposes, or just because there are so many people that really do just want to watch this fucking world burn.
Right.
Because they have no sense of self. They have no, idea that there are people in this world who feel other things. There's just a lot of psychopaths in this world that could use this and make
Well, yeah, I mean, we've seen that with so many
havoc.
of just the people that just create fake news. I mean, we're always like, why? Why are you doing that? It just seems so weird to us because it's not, we would never do that. And then, these videos are just the next step of that.
Right.
And it's frustrating on a level just because in the past we've been able to rely on video proof, and that word video proof
That's
is
right.
going to not have that meaning anymore.
Right.
So
I mean, I remember that even being a question when I did jury duty like 6 years ago. One of the questions, or probably even longer than that, because it was before I had a child. So it's probably 10 years ago. But one of the questions was, do you believe video evidence? And they released someone for saying that they didn't believe video evidence because video evidence can be fake. Now that's even more of a reality. And, what happens? What happens to the judicial system
I know.
when you have faked videos? I mean, you could ruin someone's entire life.
That's what I'm saying. Murder alibi.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It goes both ways. It's not just about setting someone up that,
Right.
to take the fall for a murder or something or anything. Like, it's just,
Yeah.
it's insane. I will say this. We are at the verge of this new technology. So right now it's the scariest because right now it's like the wild, wild west of deepfakes.
Right.
There will be a reckoning that will come. I don't know if it'll be soon. And it's almost like the same thing with fake news and with the internet and figuring out how to monitor and how to rule, how to have laws that make sense around it. And that's one thing that I get just super frustrated about with libertarians is that you have to have rules in society. You have to have government. You have to have laws for a reason. And it's because if we're all out there just doing our own shit, chaos will ensue, right?
Right. Well, that's what they are. They're just Republican anarchists.
And then, so I do want to say, I don't know about you. I do have an idea for a solution for this. And I read through that paper and they had a lot of solutions and they were very, I will say I didn't read that part of the paper as deeply because I was like, wow, okay. This is a lot.
It is we're going to put it on our page, but it's a 65-page paper. I tip my hat to you for doing that. I watched a lot of TED Talks.
Yeah.
I read a lot about porn and I listened to some podcasts. So
Kelly's like, oh, look at the porn. You read the research.
Yeah. I mean, normally I'm the reader, but definitely you really hung in there this time because as soon as I saw that 65-page article, I was like, I don't know that I'm going to do that.
They were talking about a lot of things that honestly we've already talked about with like basically through like suing people and libel laws and all these things. And I was like, yeah. Like it's the same as with fake news. There's a process that people can go through, but it's really fucking deep and intense and hard to like have everybody in the world trying to sue somebody in order to get the laws created that need to be there in order to govern this so that it's not harmful to society, right?
Right. Well, I did read that the UK was, and Scotland had already done it, but the UK was looking to create a law that says that creating like visually altering this malicious content, whether it's sexual or violent, but they were more focused on sexual content, was illegal. And Scotland had done that. And the UK had done, it's illegal to make upskirt videos.
Right.
And they were like, we should have changed the language to include
I can't believe we have to make that a law, but yes, that should not be.
Yeah, it was basically you can't release any sort of revenge porn or upskirt videos is how they phrased it, but they didn't look enough into the future. They had left out completely any images that were altered to create pornography. So that's what needs to be like added on and made into the law now.
Well, and they did talk too in this article or this paper about how another thing is that, you can make all these laws in the US, but this is a global problem. Like these do not stop at the border. Like it can be somebody in Turkey that made a video about somebody in Sweden. It's not just a US problem, and you can't just...
Right. And you can't pretend that we don't live in a global society.
Right. Especially with this kind of reach. So here is my solution. And it's a simple solution. It'll take a couple generations, but be a good person. Literally my solution to this. Like literally we've got to raise our children to not be malicious and to be good people and to not create fake news and create videos, because really the only way to really, really stop this is to have people have the moral sensibility to not do it.
Right.
So that's my answer.
I'll tell you my answer. My answer is not as nice as yours. I wonder if my idea is more feasible than yours, though. I really want people just to be good people, but I feel like there's always going to be a certain number of people.
There is always going to be a certain number of people that aren't.
And they always are going to ruin it for everyone else around them. So my thought was more along the lines of, I watched, when I was watching my TED Talks, I watched 2. And the other one I watched is called Machine Intelligence Makes Human Morals More Important. And that's by, and I'm going to do this again, and I apologize to her as well. Her name is Zeynep Tufekci.
Yeah,
I really hope I said that right.
That sounds right.
But she has what I feel like might be the coolest job title I've ever seen, which is a techno-sociologist.
Ooh, that is
what? Cool. I just want to put that on business cards and say that that's what I do. And so her talk didn't necessarily feed into the AI. She talked more about machine learning, and she talked about ethics. And I was really curious about that because I know that there are international ethics laws that revolve around science, and that those things had to be created because science had gone too far. Right. And so they had created certain ethical guidelines and standards that they follow as a scientific society. That doesn't mean that there might not be some guy in a lab somewhere still trying to create Frankenstein from dead body parts. It doesn't mean that. But what it does mean is that, to be accepted by the scientific society, or to be accepted by the technological society, to have an app on the App Store, to have, someone sponsor a technological research program, or whatever it is you're doing, you have to follow a certain amount of ethical guidelines. So this isn't something that would be governmental, although I do think the government should have these laws in place especially for sexual abuse, because that's the first place it goes. And that's so unbelievable to me. It's believable. It's just heartbreaking to me.
Right.
But I think there's a conversation to be had about the ethical part of technology. And I think this topic is already being made a priority in a lot of technology. So like in self-driving cars, I know it was a big conversation because you have to balance the ethics of, if someone is in your car and a child runs out into the street, do you save the 4 people in the car? What if one of the people is pregnant? What if one of the people is a child the same age? Like, who do you save? So there are ethical questions that AI is already talking about, and this definitely needs to be part of it. And I think this kind of international oversight where technology is policing itself is much better than any government or any international agency trying to say, hey, you guys really need to rein it in, because you don't want to rein in. You want people to think about what it is they're creating and why they're creating it.
I think that actually it's the same solution, Kelly. It's be a good person.
It is kind of be a good person.
It's kind of,
I think
but you're like, I just want a board of regulators to also set the rules of.
It doesn't even. Yeah,
I totally agree with. Like, I can see that being a thing. Like,
be a good person. Here are some standards of how to do that.
Yeah, like the UN would have like a little section of like technology oversight. Like they probably already do, and hopefully they're looking into this because we need it. So,
right.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. So this is definitely a big topic, but
yes, it is.
We're going to keep it at that because we want to keep our, we can't do this for like 8 hours, even though we've been gone for 3 months and we probably could talk for 8 hours.
But we don't need to.
We probably shouldn't. So yeah, deepfakes. Yay. Yeah. Oh, I like this other article that you pulled, just so people know the title. AI assisted fake porn is here and we're all fucked. I mean, that was just a good pun.
There's a lot of really fun stuff in there.
Yeah.
There will be a lot of fun links this episode for the blog. I definitely recommend it.
Yeah. And Kelly's not actually obsessed with porn. It's just that there's a lot of porn and deepfakes.
Yeah, there just is. And you can't really get away from it. So
I was like, Kelly, let's talk about deepfakes. And 2 days later, she was like, look at all the porn I've watched.
I know, there's so much porn. Why is there so much porn? I didn't even want to watch this much porn.
I was like, I watched a Star Trek episode about holograms. What are you doing over there, lady?
I do have to say, I looked for something, and if any of our listeners know where to find this, I really tried to find it, and I wasn't able to. But there is a video somewhere out there of Shigeru Miyamoto, who's the CEO of Nintendo, and he's this game creator. He created Zelda. Mm-hmm. He's amazing, and he's super talented, and he's super smart. And someone at Nintendo, this group of people, was presenting him a video, and they were showing him basically this.
Oh, wow.
Where they were faking someone talking, and his reaction, they all expected him to be very, very excited about it. And his reaction was, why did you do this?
Oh.
And you could see everyone in the room just deflate. But I thought that is actually the perfect response that these people need to have. And that is exactly what we need to hear is, yes, you can do it, but why are you doing it? Yeah. Are you doing it because you can? Because that's a shitty reason to do anything.
Right. Well, with that, let's spread some jam.
Yeah, let's do it.
I have no idea who went first last time. That was forever ago. We have to start over.
Yeah, I don't remember who did it either. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I don't care. Whatever.
Okay.
I have a song.
I can go first.
So mine is short, so...
If you want to go first, that's fine.
Okay. All right. So just thinking of deep fakes, I had to go with Adele's song Rolling in the Deep. Because it just makes me laugh. But it's also a really good song, and I really love it. And, it definitely is like, talks about like emotional closeness and dependence, especially in romantic relationships. And I think that we all need to keep that in mind, that those are actually good things, is to have actual connections with actual humans that aren't fake and are real. And I wouldn't mind, though, it'd be actually really fun to do karaoke videos where you were singing karaoke, but on the screen, like the singer's face was superimposed over yours. That would actually be a good use of deepfakes.
That would be great. That would be really fun. You're right. That would be pretty fun.
So anyway, Rolling in the Deep. Go listen to it while you cry over deepfakes.
Oh, geez. Yeah. Okay. So actually, we are recording on International Women's Day.
We are. Happy International
Yay!
Women's Day.
I know. Happy International Women's Day to you too, Beth. Cheers. We're both awesome women. And I thought this week for my jam of the week, I would choose someone that I thought was an awesome woman and someone I'm hoping to see next week, but definitely will at least be going to see a viewing party of her new show, which was filmed here in Portland and has some extras of some very awesome women that I am friends with.
I think I know what you're talking about, and she does a great impersonation of Adele.
Does she? Oh, I bet she does. I bet she does. So my jam of the week is the book Shrill by Lindy West.
Yeah.
And it's a series of essays that she has written. She was formerly a writer. She's been published everywhere from The Guardian to GQ to This American Life. She talks a lot about all kinds of female issues. She is one of the people behind the Shout Your Abortion movement. She is just an amazing author. This book is so much fun, but it's also kind of, one of those ones that you're like, oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I do need to do more and get out there. And it makes you want to do that. And I really admire her as a feminist and as a person who is very, pushes the boundaries of body positivity. I shouldn't say pushes the boundaries. I should just say she's fucking fabulous. And I think she's beautiful. Yeah. And she talks about her body in an unapologetic way. And yeah, I love her a lot. And I think it's going to be a great show. It was a great book. And I'm really looking forward to it.
So the show is what it was Adie Bryant is the lead in the show.
Yeah.
And she's the one who does the Adele impersonation on Saturday Night Live. But
yes, Adie Bryant does do it. Yes.
So Shrill, I was just reading an article about that show about Adie Bryant actually, and it was talking about it, and so it's funny. I literally read that right before we started recording.
Yeah.
So
if you watch the show, what I will say is that there's a pool scene where she goes to, and it's like a very body positive pool environment. And I have a bunch of people who are really awesome, a very gender fluid group of folks that I know who are in that scene. And
nice.
I just couldn't be prouder of my city and my little community to be featured on this show. And I'm really excited to go to the viewing party.
That's awesome. That is really awesome. And if you have an extra seat, just feel free to, take a co-host.
You are welcome to come down. It's at a bar. Come have drinks with me.
You just said two things that I absolutely adore.
You can come to Portland and come to the show with me.
That sounds amazing. Well, hey guys, It's been really great being back with you. We are excited to be back. We're going to be trying some new things coming up here. So part of the reason why we did take a little bit longer is we wanted to work on a couple things and not only get our heads in the right space, but get our microphones in the right space. So, oh my gosh, where are we at? We're on Facebook and Twitter at Podcast Fake News, right?
We are. We're on Facebook and Twitter at Podcast Fake News. You can email us at podcastfakenews@gmail.com. God, it's been forever. Wow. We should really just practice that part.
Wait. Okay. So Twitter, Facebook, Gmail, anywhere you get your podcast, subscribe, rate, review, blah, 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 blah. We'll have to write that down.
Blah, 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 blah. That part?
Yeah. That's the part I meant. Yeah.
Got it. I'll put it. I'm typing it as we speak.
Perfect. All right, guys. We'll be back in 2 weeks. And until next time, don't forget, spread jam.
Not lies.